Hello and welcome back to Pod Popper's Place and another Team Tiny Hop. This month it's all about the holidays, and I decided to use this new Tim Holtz Sizzix poinsettia that I got from Sizzix recently. And the first time I got too close to the edge of the paper, and I wasn't sure if that was what was going to happen, but that's what happened. It was too close. So I tried it again using some washi tape to hold the leaves in place. And I kind of wish that I had used a larger size paper so that I could spread out the leaves a little bit better. This is just an A2 size, but the second time it worked great, as you can see. And what I'm using is some vellum, just some white vellum, to do some ink blending on. And I'm not being super precise about this. I want this to kind of be a bit abstract because the die cut gold piece will really define the poinsettia for us. I'm using Stampin' Up! Colors because on vellum, it takes a little bit more to dry, so some of the oxide inks would be really smeared easily, and the standard water-based inks just dry a little bit faster, especially on vellum. I use a couple different colors of green, old olive, and then I end up going back over with a little bit of the evergreen spruce, I think it's called, or something like that, a darker green, just to define the leaves a little bit better. And the red is just real red, and then the yellow is the crushed curry. And I just keep checking to see if my poinsettia is going to show through the die cut properly, and it's okay if there's a little bit of overlay. I don't mind that because it's kind of supposed to give that stained glass effect. And then I sprayed it with some gold shimmer spray that I had made with some perfect pearls and glued that onto my sheet, and then I just trimmed the edges. And I'm not sure if I liked all the spots that it got on there, but you're not seeing a whole lot of that anyway. And then I apologize, some of this is off the screen, but I use a Mary die, and then I'm going to use these new Sizzix dies that I got to do some lettering for Christmas. And I just go ahead and do a whole sheet of letters rather than picking out individual ones. And I do this with a double-sided adhesive sheet so that I have basically stickers all ready to go once they cut through. And the only letter I think I had to make two of was the S. It was the S. I had to make two of. But now they come off really easily. I did also spray those with some gold glitter, just so they weren't quite so plain compared to everything else. And the one mistake I did here was that I cut my green frame a little off. I didn't cut even around the edges, and what I really didn't want to do is to be able to see the through the stained glass look and see the edges of the frame, and I didn't. That was a mistake. You can still see the edges. So when I try to do that on my second card, I tried to correct that mistake. And then I'd use the same double adhesive sheets for the word Mary. It just makes it easy to put it on because it is such a skinny, thin die that it's nice that it just sticks right on. It does take a little bit to kind of pop that out of there, and then I go ahead and use my T-ruler so that I can line up the word Christmas as best I can. I do end up having to adjust a few of the letters just to get them straight, but the T-ruler works really nice to try and get letters straight, especially when you're trying to spell out words like this. Again, I apologize for being so far off camera. I'm not sure how that happened. I guess taking the camera down and putting it back up probably more than once led to that. But when I'm just putting the letters on here, and you can see at the end how I got them all on there, and it works really well to get a nice straight line. So I do have a recommendation. Don't use washi tape on gold foil or other foil paper. It always leaves a residue behind, and I did try and get that off with an eraser, but it's still just I can see it, maybe you can't, I don't know, but it bothers me. And then this is my next mistake on this card. I use these little red sequins to put gold over the little gold areas of the berries, and I put 5. I didn't like the 5 placement, so I put a couple more, and then I didn't like that either. And it's just too late because they're there and they're glued on. So it is what it is, but I decided I really did not like the berries on there at all, and it was a little off with the frame as well. So those are a couple of the mistakes that I made that I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this again. And so this time I decided to, I still made the mistake of using the washi tape on there, but I wanted to try and do more of an actual stained glass effect. So I cut out 2. So I put one on the front, one on the back, and I cut them out at the same time. And then I had done the same thing with the vellum, with the inking. And then I glued that together so it has a front and a back side. And so it gives that more of a stained glass look. So I made a couple of them here, and I only show you one of them, but they're basically the same. Just this idea I had. So, and I glue these on after adding a little bit more ink and getting it to kind of line up in the same place. And this time I decided, you know, those big brushes were just too hard to kind of control where I was putting the ink. So I got one of these nice thin brushes, I think from Altenew. It's like a set of 3, and they're really great for doing small areas. So then I was able to kind of control where I was getting that grain and putting it in the right spot and finishing this up a little bit nicer. One of the most difficult things I found was that just trying to line up the front and the back and the inside, because you're trying to glue 3 pieces together and there's all these holes and you want the glue on there, but you don't want to make a mess. So it was a little difficult to kind of piece all these together and get them lined up properly. Especially the vellum just doesn't slide very well. Even though I'm using the liquid glue, the vellum just doesn't want to move very much. So that was a little bit challenging. Once I was able to get all 3 pieces glued together, I just used a heavy clear block to hold those down so that they could dry and I wouldn't have to worry about any of the edges popping up. For the next step in this process, I took a heavy piece of clear acetate and I cut it to about 6.5, and then I scored it quite heavily at about a 1/2 inch. I burnished this down really, really well because I don't want the acetate to pop up too much off the card. And then I'm going to fold it over the top of the stained glass piece and use double-sided adhesive tape on the back side. And I'm going to cut it in half so that none of the tape is actually going over the leaf and doesn't interfere with the light shining through the leaf area. Again, I burnished down the double-sided tape really, really well because I want to make sure everything sticks together, as this is kind of an unusual format for putting a card together. And then I do basically the same thing with the cardstock. I cut it to about 5 3/4 with a top folding type card, and then I put a crease in at about a 1/4 inch. So I have a little bit of a smaller area that's touching the acetate than the acetate on the gold. I don't want it to really show that much. And then I do end up trimming the white down a little bit because I got a little bit too long because I don't want it to show really much behind the edges of the card. And I did put a sentiment in there, and it kind of shows through a little bit, but my idea is that this will be a card that someone could stand up and then put like a battery operated tea light behind, and the light will shine through like a little stained glass window, and I thought that would be kind of cool. So one of these I did put a stamped sentiment on the outside as well on the acetate with some stays on ink, and then one of them I did not add any sequins or anything because I didn't, like I said, didn't like the berry look last time. Plus I wanted this to be a little more clean and just get that stained glass effect. So I really thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. This was a challenge for me. I had never tried this before, but I really thought that this new die that I got from Tim Holtz was a great way to use this for this time technique I wanted to try. So please hop along and see all the other creators in the hop. The hashtag information will be down below or in the description box, and I'd really love it if you like and subscribe and come back again. Thanks so very much for watching, and tell me what you think. Bye.